He was one of the top pros at the time, and there's no way I could beat this guy. And he had perfect hair. His clothes was always perfect. I was getting murdered by this guy. So I get beat like 15-1. Like, there's no way I'm going to come back and beat him the second game. I'm down 12-0, I think, in the second game. Like, it's over. I remember my dad saying, "Miss his hair, see what happens." So he hits another perfect shot. So I walk by him and I go, "Nice shot, Lindsay." And I go, "Whap," and I just miss his hair. They didn't score another point. I beat him 15-12. I beat him 15-0. And then I go on and win the rest of the tournament. That's a great question.
Get his own boot camp. Guys, welcome to the O2O podcast with Mano, Nguyen, and Nick Porreca. We have a legend in the building today. It's my honor to introduce one of my first senseis when I came to Hawaii, a local entrepreneur, a world champion in racquetball, Egan Inoue. Egan, welcome,
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
All right. Good seeing you again in a long time, right?
I know. I mean, I've met you when I first came to Hawaii. I was in the Navy.
Yep.
96. I came out here. You were already fighting in Pride.
Yeah, 96.
Mm-hmm. So I was in the Navy as a hospital corpsman, and when we watched, everybody watched UFC 1 and Hoyt's Gracie.
Yeah.
And then when I joined the military, I got stationed here. There's a lot of military guys in your gym at that time.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So what are some of your earliest memories of Grappling Unlimited, and why'd you call it Grappling Unlimited?
So the reason I called it Grappling Limited at first was because it wasn't just like only jiu-jitsu. It was a mix of all different types of grappling. So I mixed ensemble, I mixed in judo, wrestling, and of course Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which was actually called Gracie jiu-jitsu at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want to just make it where it was just one little, one part of it. I wanted to include all the different arts and pretty much credit all the different places I learned stuff from.
I remember the bulldog.
Yeah.
The bulldog. So you and your brother had the bulldog logos. You both had bulldogs?
Yeah, they're actually pit bulls, actually. They're red-nosed pit bulls.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like a fighting line that I used to breed. So
You still have
I
bulldogs?
thought, no, I don't.
Grappling Unlimited was synonymous with Purebred.
Yeah.
Your brother's school in Guam?
Yep.
Tell us about that, because I remember during Super Bowl days, TJ Thompson recruited a lot of fighters from GU and Purebred.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened was we started filling up all the different weight classes to the point where in Super Brawl, we were able to actually fill cards with just either Grappling Limited guys, or we used Purebred guys from Guam. And of course they had fights in Guam. So we'd flip, back and forth. So our fighters basically we could fill full cards with just our own fighters.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys had a deep bench.
Yeah, we had a deep bench.
Deep bench. I want to tell you a story, because when I was active duty, we would go to the Blazer Arena to watch you fight. When did you start developing a relationship with TJ Thompson?
I think when I started,
TJ Thompson was the Super Brawl promoter.
Yep.
It's led successful events here for many, like couple decades.
Yeah. So TJ always trained at our gym.
I remember I rolled with him at Grappling. He was strong.
Yeah.
He was strong.
Yeah, he's super strong. Yeah, so he rolled at our gym. I was fighting in Japan. And then when I decided that I didn't want to fight that much anymore, I decided to just retire in Hawaii. And so I told TJ, I said, "Hey, if you can give me the same prize money as Pride was, I'll fight back here in Hawaii again." And he did it.
Your brother, earning the nickname Yamato Damashi.
Yeah.
How you pronounce it?
Yamato Damashi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Japanese fans gave him that because he's a warrior.
Yeah.
As you guys both were fighting, building your brands, he became this icon in Japan.
Yeah.
Did you feel a need to get a nickname for you? Because you stayed,
Actually, not really. I fought basically just for the sport and just the challenge of the whole thing. I've never been like a street fighter or a guy that liked to fight. My brother, He didn't mind fighting anybody at any time.
Anytime, anywhere, any place.
Yeah.
You wanted to get paid.
Yeah, for me, it was about getting paid. It was a job.
You were a businessman. I always looked at you like a businessman too. You were a fighter, but you're like, get me paid.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say all the fighters early on could have learned some negotiation skills from you.
Yeah, and you know, those are the guys who actually made it really hard for me to negotiate my purses higher because, hey, I can get Enson for $500.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that kind of went on. Even with seminars and stuff, I would do seminars and I had a certain fee that I would not show up if it was not going to be that. And, you know, of course, I'll get Enson. He's free.
Is that what the UFC
Yeah. So
UFC paid him $500 when he fought.
Exactly what he got $500 to fight.
What year was
that first UFC?
What year was that?
Gotta be somewhere around 97 or 98. His first fight with I think it was Royce Alger.
Royce Alger.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then he had a nasal fracture, and I'm like, $500 doesn't even cover.
Well, what's
an
crazy,
injury like that.
is back then we didn't have all this internet and social media. So when the fight happened, we are like, oh, he fought him?
Yeah.
He made the UFC. So it's kind of, you know, we heard about it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It was weird how you got the news before.
Yeah.
We'd have to go watch it on VHS.
Yeah, that's right. It's all in VHS.
Got so many VHS Super Bowl tapes.
Yeah.
Do you have any of those still?
I might, man. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
You think TJ has it in the archives?
I think TJ sold it all to the UFC, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Oh, because UFC uses a lot of clips.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the big guys that came out of Super Bowl, Robbie Lawler, who's now Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
So, let me tell you a quick story. That do you remember when Pat Miletich was fighting Nakao?
Yeah.
I was in the stands, and I was sitting next to Mike Kwok.
Oh,
he was sitting there, and he was taking notes. I was like, God, and I came with my military buddies watching the fights, right? Who's this dude at a fight taking notes? Right? And I'm like, hey, what's up, bro? Oh, yeah, my name's Mike Kwok, you know, whatever. What are you doing? Taking notes. Oh, I'm in their weight class. I might fight them one day. You know? My first conversation with Mike Kwok.
Wow.
Sajin Kwok is his Korean name. Ever since then, we became best friends, right?
Yeah.
But we exchanged numbers. I kind of thought he's full of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we exchanged numbers, and he's like, oh, yeah, I train a little bit. I'm a wrestler from Iowa.
Yep.
Right? I'm like, cool, man. Me and my friends, we train in the living room, you know? Everybody tried to be hoist before all that. But man, I was living in a house in Kailua with like 7 military guys. He would come over and wreck all of us. He'd tap everybody out, dude. Right? But lo and behold, he ended up training under you.
Yeah.
And he was one of your pro fighters.
Yeah, he was.
What do you remember about him and his work ethic?
I remember that guy was just one of the guys like Barrett in there that was there all the time, like training hard, like from the start to the end. Never came in late, never left early, like one of those guys.
And he's really respectful, right?
Yeah, super respectful, yeah.
He told me a story about you and when you're playing racquetball.
Yeah.
And the Porsche.
Oh, yeah. I bet, yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so when I was playing racquetball, I was in a tournament in Stockton, and I had just won the tournament, and the owner of the gym had this brand new Porsche that he'd drive up every single day.
He's the owner of the gym.
The owner of the gym, yeah. And he also sponsored, so he had a lot of money, right?
And you're number one in the world?
I wasn't the number one in the world yet. I was still one of the up and coming pros, but I just happened to have a really good tournament. And I want to say that my prize money was $10,000, which was for me a lot of money back then, right?
There's a lot of money now.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot back then
but
too.
It was like that was gonna take me to the rest of the tournaments for the rest of the year, so I could make every pro stop. And he walks in and he goes, you want to bet that? And I was like, frick, I mean, this guy, I don't even know him. There's no possible way he could possibly beat me. And so he goes, yeah, we'll bet. And he goes, how much points you gonna spot me?
What kind of Porsche was it?
It was a 911 Turbo.
What color?
And it was a black. It was like just.
Was it shiny?
It was a shiny black, brand new one, and it had the slant nose on it. So it was like one of those that I've never really seen before.
He probably just had it washed.
Yeah, he probably did. He probably had it washed every day because every day it was shiny, you know. And he asked me how much points I had spot him, and I said, "Well, see, before I got there, though, let's back up a little bit. When I first moved to California, trying to be a racquetball pro, I did a lot of hustling on the side.
I heard.
So I played for money just so I could eat for the week.
Like white man can't jump.
Yeah. So and actually, what I was trying to copy was
you're purposely kind of low key hustling.
Yeah.
So you got to eat.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, coming from Hawaii, no one knew me. And there's club pros, and back then racquetball was so big.
What year and how old were you?
That was in 1983. So I just graduated high school.
Wow. Where'd you go?
I went to University Lab School.
Oh, you were, okay.
And then I decided to be a racquetball pro. And it was against all my parents, like my grandparents, everyone was like, would cut you off if you.
Who first picked up, how'd you first pick
Actually,
up
I started from my mom.
She played?
Yeah, my mom took a University of Hawaii course. And then I went in, I was 16. And my mom beat me, and I was like, 16, I'm, all-star baseball,
So
basketball.
she early on unlocked the beast.
Oh, yeah, because I'm not going to say anything to my mom. Not when you're already 16 years old. That can't happen.
And being Japanese, you never really talked back to her too, right?
Oh, yeah. So it was, it was something that I had to keep playing. So one of those things. And then, then she'd introduce me to the next old guy that could barely run, and he'd beat me. And I'm like, I can't lose to an old man that can't run. And it just started just like that,
But it was at UH? Because
it started at UH, but the club was called the Oahu Athletic Club.
Because there's not a lot of racquetball courts here.
No, now
So
hardly.
to get good at it, you got to be really good,
It was tough. It was tough to get good at it here in Hawaii because we didn't have many courts.
I got a guy,
Yeah.
How'd you do against Joe Lee? And
Joe, I know Joe.
How'd Joe Lee do against you?
Joe was actually
He talked
one of
so
my
much
fastest
shit,
partners.
that guy.
Oh, yeah.
I used to play with him at the Honolulu club.
Yeah.
I only scored 2 points off of him.
Yeah, he was good.
But 2 points is hard to get off of him.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
tell us about Joe.
Yeah, so Joe, he's another one. I mean, I use him as a training partner.
Is he still
He
around?
did a lot. Yeah, he's a golfer. And he's same thing on the golf course.
Tell him I said what's up.
Yeah, I will. I got guys who play with him. But, he's definitely one of those guys that'll work your mindset, and give you mental toughness, because I've seen him at nationals turnaround games where he's losing and ends up being the national champion because, he gets into your head.
He beat some national champs?
Oh, he's won a bunch of national championships.
I played so many games with him at the Honolulu club.
Yeah.
And he taught me how to pinch the ball in the corners.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, I'm a tennis player.
Yeah.
So I'm hitting wild.
Yeah.
He's like, what are you doing? You're so athletic. He's like, pinch the ball.
Yeah.
Like, kill the ball.
Yeah.
Kill the ball. So have you guys played racquetball? It's so hard. You got to pinch it hard.
Yeah.
I want to have with the Porsche.
Oh yeah. Let's get back to the Porsche. Tell us about the Porsche. He's got so many stories.
Okay, so because I was hustling, and it was I think it was called The Color of Money. It was the movie, and that's where I got the idea of hustling. Paul Newman, right? And he was a pool hustler.
Yeah.
And so I researched that as much as I could, and then when I got to California, I started doing it. And because I was a kid, all the club pros and all the different clubs they'd bet me anything.
Shout out to Paul Newman.
And I started learning how to lose for the small ones and win the big ones. And I started playing that, and I would just move from club to club throughout California, from San Diego all the way up to
So
California.
you purposely throw some.
Yep. Yeah. And it's hard to throw any games
Because you gotta hide your shots. How do you hold back?
It's actually your ego that you got to keep in check.
Ooh.
Because most of these guys have big egos and they talk a lot of crap. So you're going to have to listen to all they have to say when they beat you. And that was the hard part.
None of this was televised, huh?
None of it was televised. And, I look like a young Asian guy, and, I would start talking a little crap to them, and, of course they'd puff up and they want to win, right? So I did that all the way from Stockton to San Diego, and I just went from every different club. And I used to drive it, sleep in the car, and play at the different clubs. So by the time I got to this win in Stockton, and I had $10,000, I was really good at hustling. And so this guy was trying to hustle me. In the long run, I ended up driving his Porsche, leaving my Scirocco that I had to fill up with antifreeze 3 times on the way from Newport Beach up to Stockton.
Yeah.
And I got to drive all the way down in this brand new Porsche going home.
So the keys, the pink slip, everything was in there?
So what happened was he was going to send me the pink slips and everything, and I didn't care. I was back then. I was like, yeah, frick, I'm out. Took it. I had it for about 8 months, and I wasn't taking good care of it, and I was just pushing the limits of the car and driving like a maniac.
He's redlining.
Oh yeah, I was redlining the thing, and the thing caught fire. One day I was driving, and guys were like, I was like,
So wait. It was supposed to be Egan Inoue, not Vin Diesel.
yeah, exactly, right?
Right?
And so these cars are passing me, going like doing this, and I'm like, going, what the heck, right? So I cut off, and I look back, and I see just flames coming out of the back. So I end up just leaving the car there because I was like, so I walk over I climbed over one of the fence, and I just left it. And I think the guy got the car back because I called the guy back, and I said, hey, your car caught fire, and it's yours again.
Hey, speaking about car, that's an awesome story, but it segues into this other car story. I think for prize money, did T.J. Thompson, did he gift people like cars or just different stuff? Because he was always trading. Because I want to say one of Mike's prize money, I think he gave him a car.
You know what? He might have done. He would try to help out a lot of fighters.
Yeah.
So if you needed a car because you didn't have a car, he'd be like, hey, you win this fight or you fight for me.
Because I'm sure a lot of people owed him some.
Yeah.
Somebody probably gave him because, well, I got a car. You can have this one, right?
Yeah.
What was it like working with TJ as a promoter?
For
Because
me?
years later, did you go to the Galaxy MMA shows? I promoted like an event with Mark Pang from Fighters Corner.
Oh no, I
You
don't
did?
think I did.
It was like it was between X1 and we did like a pro thing at the Blaisdell.
Oh.
It was years back. I think Scott Junk was in the finals against Fabiano Scherner. And I just went to Portland to go see Fabiano.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah. So it was like a one and done show. It's hard to make money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But before we did that show, I called Pat Freitas, who worked really closely with TJ Thompson,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned so much about promotions. So I became the Dana White and Ariel Hawani in one to help Mark Pang kind of do that show.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're God, it's probably like 2011, 2010.
Yeah.
But during that time, I got to know a lot of the fighters, like you remember like Tyson Nam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he ever come roll with you guys?
He's actually used to train at Grappling.
Did you? Yeah. Because he went. I want to say he was like 18 years old at that time, and that was before the UFC had bantamweight and all this stuff. So I was like, hey man, that'd be cool if I could be your manager one day.
Yeah.
And that'd be cool, right? But now to see where the UFC's gone, what are your thoughts about the growth of the sport?
I mean, they did a great job at marketing and doing, getting it to grow. I mean, Dana White's rolling in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And UFC's pretty much a household name now, so
Yeah.
they did great.
I wanted to share with you one thing here, real quick, because right here,
I have a lens for that.
yeah, real quick,
Was that Henzo?
yeah, Henzo. What's that? So after you won, all right. So this was Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
This is like the Olympics of grappling.
Yeah.
And this was, what year was this?
This was, I think, in 2000.
So Egan, he had decision win over Renzo Gracie.
Yeah.
And after you won, you guys had an exchange. I don't know what you said to him, or you guys.
So a year or two before that, I went to Brazil and I trained with Henzo in Brazil.
You did after that or before that?
No, before this. I was a blue belt, and Henzo was super cool, and he trained with me, and we rode straight for an hour, and the whole time he didn't make me tap once. But he had me in something I was just about to tap, and he transitioned to, and he did that for a whole hour.
Oh, so he's just playing with you.
He was just playing with me. He was so good. And I learned so much from that role. And every day I'd go back and Henzo would be waiting for me and do the same thing to me every day. And he would kind of teach me how to escape everything, but it would always take me to the next submission, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is, I went back home. I came back to Hawaii. I trained, I practiced and everything. And then I got the invite to Abu Dhabi. And then I run into Renzo. I look at the thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to fight Renzo. I mean, he's by far, even at that time I beat him.
He was the guy.
By far, way better. If we had a Guion, he would just tear me apart with no problem at all. And I already had a game plan because I already knew that he was in my weight class. We were going to fight. Every single person in my weight class, I knew how I was going to beat him. I knew that I had to do these certain things in order to beat him.
Who gave you that game plan?
I just figured it out by myself. I've always been that guy that, like, strategically, like from racquetball, I've always tried to plan and figure out how to beat guys. And I always thought to myself, like, I always had a lot of basics. And until you play against me, you'd never understand how to beat me. You can have it on paper how to beat Egan Inoue, but until you run into me, you don't know how quick I move. You don't know how strong I am. You don't know any of those things.
It's kind of like that Mike Tyson quote.
Yeah, and
you got a game plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Yeah, and I took that from Oklahoma. They used to play this wishbone, and every team knew on paper how to stop this wishbone, but they said that they could never stop this wishbone because the speed and the velocity.
Tell us what the wishbone is real quick. Break it down.
Wishbone is like it's a formation that they ran in a kickoff, and no one could stop them because by the time they would come down the field, they're coming at such a high rate and the speed and the power that when they'd get hit or run into, like, guys would be thrown off. And
it's a blitz. Yeah,
it's kind of like a blitz like thing that they did. And so I thought about that, and I thought, you know what? If I could make myself just like that, nobody could beat me with just basics, because there's no way I would know as much techniques as Renzo in 1 year.
But you're strong as hell, and you're super in shape.
Exactly. And I thought, if they cannot. So here's one of the things that I learned in racquetball is that if you and I played, but I trained at my heart rate at 220 beats per minute, but you trained at 180. When I get you to 200, you're going to start making errors.
100%.
I still got 20 more beats higher that I could keep pushing myself, and I can still function. And when we got to grappling, I could control that even better than racquetball.
Because their max was your warm-up.
Exactly, pretty much. So I'm super comfortable at 200 beats per minute. 220 is where I know I can push.
That's science, baby.
So as I'm pushing Renzo, I know that he's going to start making errors, which happened.
Yeah, but most people would just lose getting on the mat with a Gracie. Where does that come from? Okay, you were a racquetball champion first, and you done.
Yeah.
I think that was your competitive advantage. You were already a winner.
So that's where I learned. When I would play in the state champ when I was playing racquetball. Oh, I played in the state champ. Frick, you lose before you even step on the court. So I learned how to maneuver that. And then, of course, when I wanted to be a racquetball pro, I had this guy, Marty Hogan, and like nobody could touch this guy. And then all of a sudden I find myself on the court with this guy, and I just get annihilated because mentally I wasn't ready. So I learned through racquetball that each person's still a human. Each person has everything's the same. Now, how do I maneuver it so it doesn't really matter? And so I had a couple of things like heart rate training. I also did a lot of training where I'm trying to maximize strength but not gain weight. So the trick to that is everybody wants to get bigger and stronger. Like even like baseball players, football players. Well, you got to gain weight. And they associate weight with strength. And so I thought that's where I'm going to like not misdirect, but like make people think like, hey, Egan, he's not that big. Not realizing that at 180 pounds, I can bench press 410 pounds for 2 reps. And I can squat 600, and I can power clean 350. And most guys are 200, can't even do that. So that's where I felt my advantage was. When I grabbed you, you're like, oh crap, now I'm in trouble. And I've always been big in grip strength because I always thought that if I grab someone and you can't get your hand loose, your hand's no good. And I will let your hand go when I'm ready to, which means that I have my next step already. So I'm always going to be a step ahead of you. And so that's kind of like my thing. And I learned that from Jean-Jacques Machado because he has one good hand and one not good hand. Yeah. And this guy's phenomenal.
Do you know Vince Krause? think he was a skateboarder. He just got his black belt from Jean-Jacques.
Yeah.
He trains at Shiraki's.
Oh.
So I think Jean-Jacques gave him because he trains at Shiraki, so they both gave him his black belt kind of.
Yeah.
I used to roll with him a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, Jean-Jacques one hand. Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned that with Jean-Jacques because I watched Jean-Jacques submit everyone. And then when I rode at Jean-Jacques, I held on to his one good hand.
These guys are legends in there.
And he couldn't do anything to me. So I lasted the whole round and I was like, well, this is not so bad. But it was because of grip strength. He couldn't get his hand free.
I saw that martial arts demonstration you did on the news, KHON.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that one. Talking about Abu Dhabi and your legacy in jiu-jitsu, you're asking about Mike Kwok. He's after he retired from Korea, he went back to Minnesota and he was training with the Minnesota Mixed Martial Arts Academy. Sean Shirk was there with Brock Lesnar.
Wow.
And so I really want to thank you for me being a part of Grappling Unlimited back then. I met so many people that I stay in touch with now. Right?
Cool.
Because being friends with him, Brock Lesnar just won he beat Randy Couture.
Yeah.
Remember? And I was like, dude, you guys got Jack Links all over your gym. He's like, bro, we got boxes. Because Brock Lesnar was sponsored by Jack Links.
Yeah.
He said they had boxes of Jack Links all over their gym from like wall to wall.
Wow.
You know what I mean? But just talking to him about like training with guys like Sean Shirk, who, fought Matt Hughes.
Yeah.
And he was one of the guys in there, and just to kind of be a fly on the wall, being a fly on the wall at Grappling Unlimited, right? Because like in business, right? I ran a condo management firm for 10 years and I just sold it to Lynn. So she's running her own firm now. But as we mentor people in our space or any successful business owner, they start mentoring people. What does it mean to you to see, pupils like Barrett do what he did, and he's got a great school down in San Diego? What does that mean for you?
I don't know. For me, that's something that you can't, that's kind of like an honor for me to have had the opportunity to influence Barrett.
This is Barrett Yoshida.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know him, look him up. Legend, Mililani boy.
Yeah. From Hawaii, and, he's got his own school. But besides that, it's like all the championships the guys won, and for ADCC.
Still winning.
Yeah. And ADCC, he's in the Hall of Fame and he's still fighting guys.
Younger.
I mean, he's like, 48 now?
Yeah.
And he's beating guys at 23 years old or 25 years old, It's like, that's amazing.
He's got the best crucifix.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love watching him. I like his Instagram because he'll put music when he's about to choke somebody out.
Yeah.
It's so good. Shout out to Barrett.
Yeah. Barrett.
Another student that we all got behind and love. You're gonna Wayne Scrapper Fisher.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He was a Navy diver,
and
he fought under GU. What was it like training with that guy?
So Fish was he was a great fighter. I mean, he was good. He was tough. He wouldn't give up. He had a lot of good training things that I actually learned from him.
Really,
training wise, also that
like on the swimming side, because he was a Navy diver.
He was a Navy diver, but he had all these different. I want to say he all the weird ideas.
He had his own boot camp going on too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when he first started that boot camp, it was push-ups.
I used to take his class. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I used to go there just to, see what I could do with those guys. And it was fun. I mean, that was a great thing that I was able to do those boot camps.
Yeah. I remember because I was a hospital corpsman and I'd always give Motrin to all my Marines and stuff. And I remember you get banged up. I gave Motrin to all the GU guys. Hey, y'all need some Motrin?
Yeah.
But I remember when Fish was training for his fight in the bull ring. Where'd y'all learn that? Because oh my God. Basically, can you explain to because you got fresh guys.
Yep.
Can you explain to?
So basically what I would do is we'd set up what we call a bull ring. So the guy training for the fight, he's the guy in the middle. If he has a 5-minute fight, every minute a fresh guy would come in. And my theory behind that is if you can subdue or last each minute with a fresh guy, there's no one human that could stand with you for 5 minutes.
So that when you go into the fight, you're mentally ready.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Or you're more mentally ready.
you're not only mentally ready, you're physically ready.
Mhm.
And, the thing that I always thought is like, it's such a like a mindset to know that if your opponent hasn't trained that way, there's no way he can beat you.
Yeah. And then now Fish got his black belt.
Yeah.
And he has a school down in San Diego
Yeah.
too. Shout out to Fish. The last student I was going to ask you about was a former volleyball player for Pepperdine.
Oh, Rich.
Rich Cho?
Yeah.
Is it Rich Cho or Rich Chow? Cho?
Choke, I think. Yeah.
Who became one of the Strike Force matchmakers
Yeah.
with Scott
Yeah.
Coker.
Yeah.
And he also trained under
Yeah.
GU.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it? You're okay. So my earlier question with Henzo, you and Henzo, right? You have a win over Henzo, and Henzo's in New York, has one of the biggest jiu-jitsu schools in the world now.
Yeah.
Gordon Ryan came from there.
Yeah.
What if Hawaii wasn't so landlocked out here? Like, do you think we would have produced those champions? You know what I mean? Because if you were like top notch, you wanted to come, you have to get on a plane and fly here. You know what I mean? Because I feel that all those guys that trained out with y'all back then, look at all the world champions they produced.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. What do you?
I think it's a lot harder to be a champion staying in one place. I mean, that's one of the reasons Barrett left, because he couldn't get enough matches here in Hawaii. He couldn't get enough tournaments.
Get enough looks.
Yeah. And, when he went to San Diego, every weekend he was in a tournament.
Yeah.
It's a driving range and just the sheer number of people. I mean, we got 1 million people here. Oh, it's like nothing in San Diego.
Another guy's going to bring up with King Kong Sorali.
Oh, yeah.
Because he trained with you too, right?
Kong.
So he is a Navy guy.
Yep.
I was living in the barracks with him at Pearl Harbor. Shout out to Kong. But I remember like guys were talking shit to him in the barracks. He was choking people out there. And then I saw him go train with you, and he was like, he had a pretty decent fight career too as a heavyweight.
There's a lot of guys that, Scott Junk, when he was playing football, would come off season and train at our place. We had Cabbage, BJ Penn when he was 16 years old, would come stay on the weekends and live upstairs.
I had a lot of guys.
So I don't, you were saying like, UFC would pay guys really, really low back then, and they were trying to make a deal with you too, right? Yeah. But like low key, you were probably not to put your business out there, but you were probably making more than the UFC fighters. The way you and TJ had your stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of heard, because getting tips and ideas from Pat Freitas, I was like, man, you're not gonna make any money in this. You got to really scrap to pay fighters.
Yeah.
Because the city and county takes all the taxes, right?
Yeah.
That's why UFC hasn't come here.
Yeah. So the thing about it was a lot of the guys fought UFC, and the attraction to UFC was is that Dana White would say, "Hey, I'll make you a household name.
Yeah.
But you got to start at $500.
Good old.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then if you win, we'll double your purse. So you get $1,000 in your next fight. And he would sign you with 3 fights. But if you lost one of the 3, you start at $500 again. And I was already making $3,500 fighting in Japan.
It's hard if you go down. Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not gonna go down. I'm not gonna go backwards. It's like,
because you actually got into MMA late, right?
I got in late. I was already older. Already. And the thing is that I didn't really like fighting, so it wasn't. And I didn't want to be a household name, and I didn't care about being famous. I was just fighting, just
pay your bills.
Yeah. And I loved grappling, and so I just wanted to keep grappling and not need to have a regular job. So that's what I did. I fought.
Not a lot of people can find that passion, What do you think about the pickleball surge?
I think pickleball is like almost like how racquetball was when I first started racquetball, except it's growing even faster and it's an older crowd. So there's a lot more money in it.
There's a lot of pro athletes.
Oh yeah.
That don't get a shoe deal or a racket deal. I mean, you had a racket deal called E-Force.
Yeah.
Early on. So when you became a pro, were you like, I'm gonna get me a racket deal?
Well, before I became a pro, I had a racket deal and I was sponsored by Nike. So I actually had.
So you were set already?
I wouldn't say set, but I was doing good.
Yeah.
And,
back then
I had enough money to make most of the stops. And then I just decided that I was helping Echelon at the time develop their racket so much that one of the guys here in Hawaii goes, hey, why don't we start our own racket company?
Oh, really? As a local guy?
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, sure. Let's do it. And, we looked it up, went to the Chamber of Commerce, and and didn't have internet at the time. So it was a tough communicating with Taipei, but we were able to do it. And it was like $35,000 to start the company. And so the guy's like, I got 35,000, let's do it. And so I flew over to Taiwan and designed the racket.
So it was fabricated in Taiwan?
It was made in Taiwan. And when was that? There was 1986.
Wow.
And the World Championships. And I just had made the team for it.
Where was the championships at?
It was in Orlando, Florida. So I was a last minute. I was an alternate, actually. And I somehow, by the time the tournament started, I was a third player on the team. And I ended up winning the whole World Championships that year. So I figured that...
Who'd you beat in the finals? Anybody?
I beat, in the finals, I beat this Canadian, Roger Prasad, he was dominating. And I just happened to play really good. Like, all season, I lost. I didn't win one game. And we used to play 3 out of 5 games to 11. I didn't win one game all season. I went to 10 different stops. I traveled over 100,000 miles flying, and I didn't win one. So I came home and I quit racquetball. I was like, I'm done. I'm going to go back to school. And then I get a call 2 weeks later from the U.S. team coach. He goes, Egan, you want to be an alternate for the World Championships? And I was like, nah, I'm not sure. I don't think so. He goes, well, you're going to have to fly tonight to Orlando.
How old were you? How old were you back then?
I was, how old was I? I was 20.
Wow.
I think I was 20, yeah. I was 20 or 21. And I remember my dad going, oh, what was that? I said, the U.S. team coach, he wants me to play racquetball. I freaking quit. I'm done. And he goes, what? You're going to be on the U.S. team? I go, yeah. I said, alternate. I can't win in my alternate.
He pulled you by the ear.
Oh, pretty much. He called me every name in the book. And he was like, I didn't know you were such a punk. And I was like, oh, frick, I'm on that plane. So that night I was on the plane. I get to Orlando, Florida, and I'm the first alternate now. And then the next morning, the coach calls me up. He goes, hey, Egan, you're on. You're playing. I'm like, what do you mean I'm playing? He goes, oh, so-and-so's sick. I'm like, all right, frick, I'm on. I win so I play all the third spot players from all the different countries. And I beat every single person. And then after that's over, they have an individual event where it doesn't matter what team you come from, who's the world champ, who's the best in the world. So they put us all into this one pot. And I remember my first match that I was playing, I played this guy, Lindsey Myers, and this guy's like Mr. Perfect. He was one of the top pros at the time, and there's no way I could beat this guy.
Mr. Myers?
Mr. Myers. And he had perfect hair. His clothes was always perfect.
You got to beat that guy.
And I was getting murdered by this guy. Like, I lost the first game like 15.
You're losing the perfect hair guy.
Yeah. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm losing to this guy. And in the amateurs, you play 2 out of 3 to 15 points. So I get beat like 15-1. Like, there's no way I'm going to come back and beat him the second game. I'm down 12-0, I think, in the second game. Like, it's over. And then I remember my dad saying something to me, and he was out there, and he goes, mess his hair, see what happens. And I thought, wow, interesting. So he hits another perfect shot, and like, there's nothing I could do. This guy's playing so good that there's nothing I could do.
Did you go mess up?
So I walked by him, and I go, nice shot, Lindsey. And I go, wow. And I just mess his hair. They didn't score another point. I beat him 15-12. I beat him 15-0. And then I go on and win the rest of the tournament. Like, the whole thing is unbelievable.
You had hair back then, right?
What's that?
You had hair for like a long time.
I did have hair. My hair was all permed out and was curly.
You still have hair. You should shave it, right?
Yeah, I still got hair. Yeah. So that was the start for my racket, and after that, E-Force took off.
Well, because like, again, a lot of pro athletes will get a contract deal, but they don't get to sell merch with it. You know? Yeah. That's revolutionary. You know what I mean? So not everybody gets a racket or a shoe.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I feel like a lot of guys, you get sponsored. It's like you're getting money for doing nothing. When you decide to open your own company, you're not going to make any money unless you make sales. Mm-hmm. So it's a different kind of pressure. And I think a lot of people, to focus on winning, you should be focusing only on winning. I just happened to needed to not only focus on winning, but I also had to focus on designing rackets and winning with the rackets. And it was a little different for me in that sense, but I felt like it was a necessity because I watched all the other players get capped because this is all the company's going to give you. And that's it. and I felt that if I had my own company, the sky's the limit. I could, as much rackets as I can sell, as much money as I can make. And the more tournaments I win, the more people that want the racket.
Okay, I listened to that podcast about a year ago when you're talking about how your brother introduced you to jiu-jitsu. Who did he start learning from first, and how long was he training before he choked out that guy?
Yeah, in Seattle.
In Seattle, yeah.
So his first instructor was Enson,
Okay.
and he had only 3 months of jiu-jitsu.
Was that at UH?
It was a UH, yeah.
So I have to ask, because back then, I went to Helson School and on Cocoa Head.
Yeah.
Do you remember when it was Cocoa Head?
Yeah.
All the military guys came
Yeah.
down because we all wanted to, be tough.
Yep.
Barry was in there with the blue belt.
Mm-hmm.
He would come in there, smallest dude in the room. What is Barry, 145?
Yeah. He might have been 135 back then.
He would walk around the room. I'm not leaving until I tap everybody in this room. Remember, he'd always say that, I'm going to tap everybody in here today.
Yeah.
He'd choke everybody out. Big, little, small, medium, large.
Yep.
Everybody's tapping armbar. One time he put me in a double armbar. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was a videotape. There was a videotape that apparently the Gracies had it, and they had all these secret Gracie trainings, and then that wasn't supposed to be circulated, but was. Does that ring a bell at all?
They always had this, I don't know. They always had these secrets they claim was secrets.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, in my mind, there's no real secret. I mean, they could have had secrets, but
yeah,
So
during that time, you were fighting in Japan at the time. Barrett left to Kaneohe Jiu-Jitsu Club. Do you remember Kelly Matsukawa?
Yeah.
I went to train there with those guys.
Yeah.
I was the white belt getting murdered, right? But then after that, Barrett went to GU after that.
Yeah. Actually, Kelly used to train at GU also.
Yeah. And then he where is he now? Is he still training?
I'm not sure.
I've been hearing he became a sheriff or
Yeah.
something. But it's crazy to kind of like, all these schools popped up through the years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What happened to the Halava after when you closed down that location? Did you open the one over here?
When I closed down Halava, I came to Mano and I stopped. Well, I not necessarily stopped. I just didn't do it as big of a jiu-jitsu school. And then I got rid of all the fighting side, and I will try to get more to like just pure fitness for just regular people. And that's kind of like, but grappling just has to keep going on.
Yeah, because I would run into like lawyers and attorneys and doctors around town. They're like, oh, we signed up for Egan's boot camp.
Yeah.
5 a.m. boot camp.
Yeah.
Like, how did you market yourself to tap all those professionals? Because they all know you.
Yeah. Actually, like, my wife is the one that wanted to start boot camps.
Mm.
And so she convinced me to try, and I tried it. I mean, I was open-minded enough to just, all right, I don't want to be like Richard Simmons or anything like that, but I thought it would be fun. And then it turned out to, be the really good thing, the boot camps. And I remembered what I did with Fish. So I kind of had that same, like, if we could do it like that, it was pretty rugged. Instead of like Richard Simmons, which is an aerobics class.
Mm-hmm.
And the mom was, yeah, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, but Richard Simmons also...
Oh, he did great.
He did great, right?
He did great.
But that was his thing. So you wanted to do a different style with a little...
Yeah.
Because when you did the boot camp thing, it was similar to what Fish was doing with his boot camp style.
It was very similar.
It was like the military style where, nowadays, like the CEOs, they'll pay a lot of money just to go through boot camp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why do you think that is?
I think it's just the mental toughness thing. It's like, that's why Jocko's doing so well with his books, and he's going into corporations and restructuring, and a lot of teamwork. It's mental toughness. It's about, being consistent. It's about putting yourself through hard things and surviving it, and, learning how to just kind of reinvent yourself in that sense. And I think that's what it is. And
have you met guys like that since you've been, kind of a celebrity? Like, or who have you met with your celebrity status to kind of, as you've traveled, that's like pretty cool,
Oh man, I don't know. I've actually met a lot of people since, from fighting and that are.
And you're not the guy that would like fanboy certain people.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I took pictures with all the guys that I met, but I just was never that guy. And today it's like I should have.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna, I'd love to just build this podcast eventually and have like a series around you.
Yeah.
And, but because I wrote these names down on your, I downloaded your fight record. I mean, you fought UFC legends like Joe Dirksen, Jason Miller, Guy Metzger. These are UFC legends, you know. As the UFC as big as it is right now, what's it mean for you to kind of like, you know, have some wins over, just fought some of those guys? You competed with the best.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't even think about it.
Really?
Really,
You're just doing your own thing.
I got better things to think about.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm just saying though that like because you're never the one to brag about himself. You're not boastful. You don't get on social media like, I'm gonna whip your ass. You're always taking the humble approach. So I feel that people don't know you the way like I know, you know, or other people that have trained with you that know your mindset. I bought your book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right. Thanks.
Who inspired you to write that?
Actually, the members at my gym.
Really?
You know, the members are like, hey, because before classes, I always try to motivate people by saying one thing or another. And I use myself as examples a lot. And there's, you know, like you said, there's tons of stories that I don't remember any. Someone will bring something up. And anyway, you got to write a book. And I was like, I don't want to write a book. And one day I was talking about challenging yourself and doing hard things. And someone said, well, you always preach that stuff. Why don't you write a book? I'm like, oh, that's hard. Oh, but you said you like to do hard things. I go, not that hard. And they're like, well, it isn't that hard. I'm like, yeah, it is. And, you know, as an athlete, writing a book is not an easy thing.
Sure.
But as a CEO of a company or a professor at a university, it's not a problem for them.
Sure.
It's just, do they have the information that they can write upon, right? And they would tell me, like, Egan, you got so many stories. Just write the book on the stories. I'm like, it ain't that easy. Like, oh, you got to do this and this and this. And so anyway, long story short, I found the book.
No, take your time, because I think a lot of people want to learn how to write a book about their, you know, so.
Yeah, so so my belief is this. So when I wanted to become good at jiu-jitsu, I hired Rickson Gracie and I took private lessons from Rickson Gracie while I was playing racquetball. And then when I wanted to enter the world championship in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I flew to Brazil and I trained in Brazil, because I always believe, like, if you want to become great at something, you should go to the best. And when you go to the best, I'm going to, like, say it's a physical thing, like say jiu-jitsu. I'm going to find someone my weight, my height, about my size, because his techniques are probably going to fit into my body the best. And that was Rickson Gracie. And so that's why I went that way. And so, you know, by thinking that way, I thought, okay, so how would I write a book? I need to know someone that teaches you how to write a book. So I found this guy, Patrick Snow. And he was like, oh, it's cost 10 grand and I'm like, oh, 10 grand to write a book. Jeez, I don't even know if I can make that kind of money back. And then I started negotiating. Then I was like, okay, I got to think about it. Then he called.
See, you're already talking about your ROI. He's already thinking about you're trying to.
Yeah. And then he goes,
what am I getting out of this?
Calls me back. He goes, 5,000. And I was like, let me think about it.
So he just,
not thinking that we're negotiating. I'm just like, nah, I can't.
He just went down by half.
Oh, yeah. And then finally he goes, you know what? He goes, $2,000, we get started tomorrow. I was like, all right, I got $2,000, let's do this. Okay, fly to Maui. I'm like, oh, you're Maui? He goes, yeah. Fly to Maui. He just gives me the whole marching orders. And I'm good. Like, if you tell me this has to be done, this is A, B, C, D.
You'll do it.
I'll do it. And so I started waking up at 3 o'clock every morning and spend 1 hour every day, 3 to 4, just working on. And I thought to myself, okay, if I think about writing a book, it's like so overwhelming. Like, I just cannot. But if I thought about just writing 200 words every single day, I'm like, oh, I think I can do that. And so that's all I did. I just wrote 200 words. And I would literally, like the computer would say 190, okay, 10 more words. That's what I gotta think about. And I would write 10 more words. And each day that would get easier and easier and easier and easier. And then pretty soon I have this whole thing. And he's like, okay, you're ready. Now we got to find an editor and they have to put it together for you. And then we found the editor, and then that was a lot of work because I don't spell good. My grammar's not real good. But I didn't want it perfect grammar. I wanted to sound like me because I've read too many books where when you meet the person, you're like, you didn't write this book. That's not even your words, right? And so for me, that was big. I wanted to write this book and I want it to be, he goes, yeah, that's Egan. Like,
So it's all mostly in your own words.
it's all my own.
And they probably just made some grammatical corrections.
Exactly. So there's pidgin English in there. There's, the spelling's all right because that people will just associate you're stupid if you spell wrong. So
Sure.
that had to be.
So
fixed.
you wanted to keep a local element to it.
Yeah.
Being a I was actually going to ask you because a lot of people from Hawaii.
Yeah.
There's famous people that leave Hawaii and identify with Hawaii. How do you identify with being from Hawaii, and how important is that to you?
It's always been. I've always represented Hawaii. I always thought of myself as a representative of Hawaii, and I always wanted to bring back titles to Hawaii. Like say for racquetball, nobody from Hawaii can be a world champion racquetball because racquetball players, it's never been done. And all the best racquetball players come from the mainland. And I just hated that. I hated when people would say stuff like that. And I kind of felt like people would just make it like Hawaii people aren't good enough.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't like. And I think it came also from my grandfather where he'd be like, you're Asian. What athlete in the world's Asian? You can't. You're not. You cannot be a pro athlete. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be a pro athlete because that's what I want to do, And so that's kind of like what brought racquetball about. And just, I'm going to go to the mainland, learn, come back and work on it. And I did the same with jiu-jitsu, same thing. I mean, the guy said, you know why it's called Brazilian jiu-jitsu again? Because only Brazilians are world champions. I'm like, really? Okay, I'm going to be the first non-Brazilian. And that's what I did.
What do you think about Jake Shields calling it American Jiu-Jitsu?
Yeah, right? So Jake Shields, like, he's right in the same mode.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you're still training?
I still training.
Yeah, you still have GU?
I still GU. Yeah.
And the Banyan, right? Yeah. I have friends that live in that building.
Yeah, so we're right down below. It used to be the Punahou Spa.
Is Carter Lee training with you guys?
Carter is there. He's actually weightlifting. He doesn't really do jiu-jitsu with us.
Oh.
He'll show up at some of the open mats, but
I used to roll with him a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, good guy.
yeah.
Yeah. Because he tells me he surfs with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of guys that you surf with that.
Yeah.
Back up a little bit further, back to the Halaba days, because not a lot of pro fighters can actually run a successful gym while they're actually fighting. How hard was that?
For me, it wasn't that hard in the sense that my reason for opening a jiu-jitsu school or a fighting school was to make people good fast.
Mm-hmm.
So they would push me, so I'd have to get good fast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I looked at it. So I wasn't really, and I think too many times when people open up a business, they're thinking about the money. And they're not really thinking about, is it something you really love? Because if you really love something, you're going to put in everything that you got. And that's basically what it was for me. I mean, we had 350 members at one point.
Really?
In that gym. And remember, it was a $10 drop fee every day you came in.
Yeah. And if you were a member, you did a $50 a month PayPal.
Yep.
And I was like, I remember back then you streamlined a lot of your business operations quick.
Yeah.
Like I was like, shit, this guy's really smart. It's just seeing you being a fighter, because that's hard because some gyms aren't successful that way,
Yeah, it's tough.
Who was helping you run? Was it mostly Sheldon Young at that time?
Actually, back then, like the finance part, I picked up here and there from just people would say something. Oh, you heard about this company? Just go hire them, and they'll automatically deduct out of the person's checking account. All they got is to bring a check. So I did that. Sheldon actually really helped me with teaching classes. And actually before Sheldon was Bobby. You remember Bobby with the same last name like you, Nguyen? He's actually teaching at my place again.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. But he used to help load up mats before in our 2 trucks, and we'd take it to places and lay it out. And that's how we actually started. But when we got to Kalava, it started turning into more of a fighting gym. And that's where Bobby kind of left because he was more of a jiu-jitsu guy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then Sheldon came and helped me run classes. And of course, my whole thing was, if you can teach what you know, that means you actually have it. Mm-hmm. And so everybody wanted to teach. So I started getting, people teaching classes because they wanted to show me that they knew what they're doing, right? And I felt like that's the best way to get good fast, is being able to learn something and then teach it.
I was intimidated by Sheldon when I first got there.
Yeah.
Because I think every gym needs an enforcer.
Yeah.
Because you got some hothead coming and think he's hot shit.
Yeah.
And he's being rough
Yeah.
with your lower belts, just fucking him up. Sheldon was your enforcer, right?
Yeah.
Because I was there a couple times and there's some military guys just being a little bit too aggro.
Yeah.
And he goes, hey, I told you to just go 50%, huh?
Yeah.
And dude was just trying to rip people's arms off.
Yeah.
Hey, I told you. And then he's like, come on, me and you. And
Yeah.
he fucked that guy up.
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
As I told you, and he's just enforcing it, you know.
The old school way.
It's important to have those guys in the gym.
I think it was important. I mean, because I had to do it at the beginning. And then, you know, of course, when I felt Sheldon was good enough to do that, then I'd, you know, push that off that way. I didn't need to do it. I mean, there's always times where if someone kind of caught my eye and I thought it would be fun, then I would be like, I got this one. Right. But most of the time it was Sheldon.
And Sheldon's got his own school now as a black belt. So when I talk to Len about business, you know, we're like, you got to be able to swim with sharks.
Yeah.
Even in any industry, you become at the top, you got to know how to roll with black. It's like rolling with black belts, you know. And when you get that good in business, you can just free flow as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now I had a lot of love for Sheldon because he looked out for me when I was over there, and he would just wreck people, man. It was so funny. When you retired, you went to work for a pharmaceutical company.
I actually was working pharmaceuticals before I retired.
Because, dude, I looked up these so much because not a lot of fighters make these business decisions right afterwards, you know?
Yeah. Well, I had 2 kids at the end of my fighting career, and I needed insurance. And so I had this unique opportunity where when I was training for fights, I was at University of Hawaii swimming pool.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't finish my college degree yet. But to be a pharmaceutical rep, you had to finish your degree. And I just happened to be at the pool training, and one of the little young scholarship UH swimmers said, hey, tough guy, I know you can fight. Can you swim? I was like, I could beat you.
I heard you beat him.
I beat him in breaststroke.
I heard you held a record too. Or...
And yeah, so the swim coach happened to see that. And he was like, you want to swim for UH? I'm like, frick, if I get me back into school. And so I went back to school.
Really?
And I swam for UH. So I was fighting and I was swimming for UH for a year and a half.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And then I got my degree, became a pharmaceutical rep, and then fought another 2 years and then was done.
What'd you get a degree in?
I got communications, the fastest, easiest thing I could possibly do. And that was it. And I had half of it done.
That or sociology?
Yeah, sociology. Yeah, that was, yeah.
That's all the athletes take social.
Yeah, totally. And so that's, you know, that's the route I went. And
I did not even know that. I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't.
Well, congratulations on graduating UH. I graduated from UH MBA school a couple years ago, and did you meet people in school, or it was just you just finished?
No, I just finished.
What was it like with your classmates having you in class with them?
Oh, it's like I was old, right? I was 30, and so it was just super weird. I mean, it was hard. It was tough. Everybody else was kids, like pretty much, right? And they all like wanted to party, and I'm like, I don't party. I don't do anything with these guys, you know. But I met some really cool guys. I met one of the other swimmers on the team. Went to Iraq, came back like pretty much crippled. They medically released him, and he wanted to go back to Iraq one more time. So he hired me to PT him back, and I PT'd him back, and he led like 250 guys back to Iraq and came back.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So, I mean, there's some really great opportunities I got just from that swim, being able to swim and meeting all the UH guys.
When I was training with you at Halaba, a lot of the SEAL team delivery unit guys from SDV-1 Fort Island would come train.
Yeah.
And I actually competed in one of them. I entered one jiu-jitsu tournament. It was at Kaimuki High School. Barrett was in that one too.
Yeah.
And I think he went against a wrestler. Anyway, I went against a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
He beat me on points, but it was like, shit. But I saw that guy. I would see that guy come through, and he trained. And, Marcus Luttrell from Red Wings, he was training at SDV-1. Did he come train with you guys?
I actually had a contract with SDV-1.
You did?
I trained them for 3 years.
So
straight out of Buds.
SDV-1 is SEAL Team Delivery Unit. SEAL Team 1.
Yeah.
And they're a SEAL Team Delivery Unit at Fort Island or Pearl Harbor. Yeah.
So I designed their gym, ordered all their mats, everything that they had there at the time. And I was there until 9/11. I had like a unbelievable contract. They'd come from Fort Island, pick me up at GU, and then drive me, and then Barrett and the Sheldon would show up.
Wow.
And then we trained all the SEALs that were whoever was in town at the time.
Because you were
He was one of them.
You were the top dude in town. They want to train
guys, yeah.
They want to train with the top guys.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we had some. A lot of people don't know about that contract that I had, and except a lot of those Navy SEALs, they died too, and like a lot of those Lone Survivor, that movie.
Yeah. So I know that Marcus Luttrell. I don't know if he trained with you guys, but he was in Fort Island.
Yeah.
And some of my corpsman friends were stationed with him over there. So then I heard about Red Wings before the book came out.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. You got your black belt from John Lewis. You and your brother?
Yeah.
So your brother took from Helson, and then where did he go after that?
He actually quit when he got his purple belt. He moved to Japan.
Okay.
And so that was pretty much his end of jiu-jitsu.
Oh, so he didn't.
Yeah, because he was done. I mean, he was living in Japan, and there was, I don't know, he had nothing until he started up his own in Japan.
Really?
Yeah.
He started purebred over there.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't go cross-train with like Sakuraba and...
Oh, all those guys we trained, they had a lot of good guys. Like all the guys in his gym at Purebred were good.
Yeah. Honestly, I could talk about your fight career, like going all the way to the first one with Alexander Zuka, but maybe we had to bring you back on the second one, you know, because there's so much stuff to go over. Because Nick and I were talking, was like, dude, he's done so much. You know what I mean? And it's just like we can go on so many tangents to ask you these questions, right? But like, why was John Lewis so good? Because Dana White often talks about he started taking jiu-jitsu from John Lewis. How did John Lewis, was he hanging out Machado's?
John Lewis actually ran into Nova Nyao.
Okay. And that's Andre Pedneris.
Yeah, Andre Pedneris. John just had this knack of
who was Jose Aldo's coach.
Yeah, he was a dancer by trade. So his body moved in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 6 foot, 6'1" maybe, but like 130 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So his length was this uncanny.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he was really strong too. And which is really interesting.
Where was he from?
He's from Las Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah, well, he was originally from Hawaii.
Oh.
And he had a dance group in Hawaii.
Really?
And then moved to the mainland.
John Lewis.
Yeah, he was actually from Hawaii. That's how I knew John. Because, you know, he was from Hawaii. And he was interesting because he was so good. But he had problems with tournament. Like he doesn't really have any titles under his name. Because he would have a hard time. Because for ADCC, I used to hold the training camp here. And John Lewis would be, I mean, even if he gave me my black belt, I became the trainer for him, Sharuto, and all of those guys. And they'd all come to Hawaii or to Halava, and we'd train for Abu Dhabi all together.
Do you remember Abe Rodriguez?
Yeah.
So Abe, he would go train with Barrett.
Yeah.
And then I rolled with Abe way then. It's like, oh yeah, they've been rolling with John Lewis. That was the first knee bar I ever put in. I was like, what the hell is that? Oh, like, boom.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, nowadays with jiu-jitsu, with the leg lock game, I'm sure like people are just seeing all kinds of scenarios they've never seen before, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. There was a legendary fight between Randy Couture and Enson.
Yeah.
You were in the corner.
Yeah.
What was that like? Because that was legendary for Enson.
Oh, that was tough because 2 weeks before Enson fought Randy, I was in Oregon and I was training with Randy. We were exchanging, I was teaching him submissions and he was teaching me wrestling. So all the wrestling that I ever learned or I knew was from Randy. So it was mostly Greco. And I learned, I mean, really good stuff from Randy. And I felt kind of bad about the fight. That's why if you watch that fight, soon as Enson beats him, I run to check on Randy's arm first. Because as I trained with Randy...
Because you guys became friends.
Yeah, we're super good friends. And, you know, as a wrestler, they hold nothing back. You know, like, they'll wrestle with you, show them what they're going to do to you, all the way till you fight them the next day. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of guys wrestlers are. They're just like up and up guys.
Integrity. Yeah.
Whereas as jiu-jitsu guys coming from, kind of like the Gracie mentality in a sense was like, back then it was like, we got secret moves. You can't show them this. You can't show them that. So when I trained with Randy, I didn't do any arm locks on him at all. I foot locked them. I did chokes. I did everything, but no arm locks. So I felt kind of guilty in that sense. And I apologized to him for that. And he was like, so what? Doesn't matter. I mean, he was better than me today.
Yeah.
And that was only today. And I was like, wow. I mean, that guy's going to be a champion, which he was, right?
Yeah. And then like, what advice do you have for like young jiu-jitsu guys and young fighters? Because did you watch the Craig Jones Invitational? There's what's the twin brother? The twin that they both won $1 million.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Cade Rotolo.
Yeah, the Rotolo brothers, yeah.
So they both made $1 million, him and Nicky Rodriguez.
Yeah.
2 jiu-jitsu players making $1 million each. From where it was with you and Henzo in Abu Dhabi, your brother making 500. Like, what is that's crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real sport. It should be. I mean, hopefully there's lots of millionaires out of, jiu-jitsu and submission grappling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy thing to learn.
Please like, comment, and subscribe. We have a wonderful guest on the show today, Mr. Egan Inoue, one of my early senseis, local entrepreneur, learning about his life.
Welcome everybody to the O2O podcast with myself, Nick Porreca, and Mano Nguyen. I'm here for part 2 with Egan. Thanks for sitting down.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Easy.
So yeah, you talked a lot about mindset in your conversation with Mano when you were here, and I just wanted to kind of delve a little bit deeper into that. I have a daughter who is, an athlete, and she's super into basketball, happens to be. And it's so funny because there's the physical part of what she does, but then there's the mental part.
Yeah.
And it ends up being way bigger than the physical part. Because the physical is like, you got to be strong and you got to be healthy.
Yeah.
But what is your just general advice for athletes, business people who are trying to accomplish things when it comes to confidence,
I think mindset is everything. I mean, it's like I work with all kinds of athletes from all different places. I work with different business people, and the mindset part is just, to me, it's the same thing. Like whether it's a combat sport, whether it's baseball or basketball, or it's running a business, even as far as trainers, like, that's kind of what I do now. I train people, and I work with clients every single day, and it's so important that their mindset is right, right? Because if I can't convince them that they can be in shape, or they can be stronger, or they could lose weight, or they could build more muscle, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If they don't believe they can, they can't.
So that's like a confidence.
It's a confidence thing, right? And I feel like as a trainer, I always preach this, and I know there's trainers out there that probably don't like it when I say it, but there's so many trainers out there that don't look the part. And there's so many trainers out there that will train people to do things that they cannot do themselves. And as I'm getting older, there's things I cannot do. Like, for example, a muscle up. I can't do muscle ups anymore. I don't teach it. I don't want to teach it. You want to learn how to do a muscle up? I'll set you up with someone that can.
Right.
Olympic lifting. I don't do as much Olympic lifting anymore. So when people want to learn like more sophisticated Olympic lifting, like a snatch, I can't do it. My shoulders can't do it. I'll send you to someone.
That's so funny you say that, because she literally talks about this, and my wife rolls her eyes when my daughter says this, but she talks about going to trainers and having them show her something, but they can't do it. And she's like, I don't understand like the pace and the rhythm of what you want me to do. So I have to have somebody show me that can actually do it. And my wife's like, come on, like just you. No, but there's something to that, right?
No, I think your daughter's right, because when someone shows you how to do something and they can do it, when you watch it, it's a visual in your head that you can replay over and over and over. And that's why I feel like visualization is such an important thing. For me, that's big for me. So all the kids I work with, we always start breathing, visualization. These things are key. They think it's funny right now. They'll get it later on.
So what does visualization mean to you specifically?
Visualization means, to me, is like being able to visualize certain things in your head that you want done. And like specifically, like we start off with like being able to see an orange in your head, like orange. And it's real simple things which the kids are like, I got it, but they don't got it. But as they get older, they start being able to see, like, say, for example, I'm trying to do like what they call a flat water pop-up on stand-up paddle, where you paddle the board and then you pop up onto the foil and then you can start pumping it. When I watch people do it, I'm like, when I first saw it, I'm like, well, that's impossible. Like, I'm 60. I can't do that. That guy's 25. Yeah. But as I watched the guy, and of course, I hired the world champion, which happened to be the same weight as me, same height as me, just he's 25 years old. But he was teaching me, and we're out in the open ocean, and he's on a boat, and he's yelling at me, telling me what to do. Finally, I sat down. I'm like, can you just jump on my board and do it for me? If he couldn't do it, I would be like, what the heck, right? And not that I didn't believe he couldn't do it. I just wanted to see him do it. And as soon as he did it, I jumped back on my board. I popped right back up. Just because I could visualize it I saw exactly how he moved his body, and I made all the connections, and then I was able to do it.
And that to me is part of the true definition of an athlete.
Yeah.
It's not just being explosive,
Yep.
but it's being able to watch someone do something and then mimic and feel that
Yep.
in your own body.
Yep. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talk about confidence. Where's sort of the dangerous line between confidence and cockiness?
Okay, so for me, I always tell people that, like, say for my son, with reps, you build confidence. Like, you know you can do this any time of the day. You can do it while you're sleeping. That's confidence. Cocky is to that point where you're not quite sure that you can do it, but you're going to say it anyway just to try to intimidate. And that can borderline that cockiness, where I play with that with my son, because I feel like in order to reach world-class levels, you got to have some of that. You got to be willing to say, oh yeah, let's see it. Let's do this. Yeah. You know, if someone's like, Egan, like, they would tell me like, oh, I can't wait to fight you. And I want to punch you in the mouth. I'll mess your face up. Yeah. And I'd be like, I'm nervous. Like, I don't want to get punched in the face. I don't want my face messed up. But I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's go. You know, and I don't know. I mean, I didn't practice dodging a punch to my face, but I know I had enough reps of not getting hit and doing what I'm supposed to do in the fight, that it's almost like it's confidence, but by going overboard and saying, yeah, let's see you do that, that's getting a little cocky. Right. But I feel like it's not the cockiness where, oh yeah, and then when you try to do that to me, I'm going to mess you up. I'm going to mess up your face. And that's a whole different, that to me, that's cocky. Yeah. Because that's not what I'm about.
I think it's interesting because I see in sports locally, there's a great deal of humility in Hawaii specifically, right? It's part of the culture, right? And I think that's beautiful. I think it's good. Then I also see the other side of what you're saying, where like in basketball or some of these other sports, our athletes go to the mainland and some of that cockiness is part of the culture there. Yeah. And they don't know what to do. Because once you have experience, you can kind of sit back and let people talk and then do what you're going to do. Yeah. But when they first come at you with that, you need a little bit of it to come back at them with. Is that true?
No, I agree with that 100%, because I remember like when I first left Hawaii to the Racquetball Nationals it was in, where was I? In Reno. Yeah. I was 17 years old, and I would meet the kids that I'm going to play against. And I go, oh, are you from Hawaii? You got no chance against me. And I'd be like, oh, frick, this guy must be super good. Yeah. Oh, hey, how hard do you hit the ball? I was like, oh, I don't know. You don't even know how hard you hit the ball. Then you must not be able to hit the ball that hard. And then I'm like, now I'm starting to like in my brain, I'm starting to fold. Then I play the kid, and then I'm losing, and I'm going, how am I losing to this guy? He's not that good. And as the game goes on, I'm like going, he's not as good as he told me. Yeah. And then I started realizing, hey, I'm actually better. Right. Some of the games I was able to come back and win in the end, but sometimes it was too late because he already had me beat mentally. Right. And that's where I learned that you got to be willing to put yourself on that line, that when someone's cocky to you, it doesn't mean that you need to be cocky back, but you cannot believe what he's saying because you don't know.
And that's a mindset thing.
And that's a mindset thing, right?
Yeah. I do feel like we could do a better job as coaches and entrepreneurs and leaders here teaching the kids growing up in Hawaii about how to respond to that? Because it's a shocker when it happens. And when you just come with a little bit of cockiness here, maybe not even cockiness, but just like supreme confidence, I feel like you kind of get beat down a little bit here by certain coaches and certain leaders here, because it's like, hey, calm down. But in some ways, all you're doing is preparing for what you're going to face. That's what I thought it was.
I think what happens is some of the people take it overboard. Like they're trying to do that, but they get real cocky. You know, and
it's too much.
Yeah, and like one of the things that people used to always comment is that I would always get this smirk on my face or this grin on my face, and some people would feel like, look, he's freaking cocky. He's got that look on his face, but it was actually the confidence that I'm like, really, you're gonna smash me in the face? Let's see that. And they're like, oh, you're laughing at that?
You have to find that somewhere, that response, right?
Exactly. And you kind of gotta have it. I mean, even like, I don't know what it is. It's like, for me, I always stay away from people that's drinking. I stay away from all of that because I'm always the guy for some reason. Like, what are you looking at? You know, I'm like going, you want to fight with me? Like, for real? And I laugh. And they're like, oh yeah, what's so funny? I'm like, it's funny. You want to fight with me? Like, and then I have to go to the point where I'm like, dude, we're going to fight. You're going to end up in the hospital and I'm going to get sued. I don't want that. And then they really want to fight, right? I'm like going, seriously? And I smile and people like my wife would be like, that's cocky. You're smiling. You're egging him on. You smile. I'm like, that's my response. Like, okay, I might be a little cocky, but seriously, this guy thinks he's going to beat me up on the street?
But you can tell your wife that sometimes that smile means that I'm about to take a black Porsche.
Right? And she's like, what's the Porsche? I don't know.
Win that contest. She probably hasn't heard that story, huh?
Yeah. Oh. No, she's heard that story.
Okay.
Because I used to have a Porsche here.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so, and she was like, what kind of sports car is this? It doesn't fit anything. What's the use of it?
So you told Mano before that, and I've heard you say, you didn't even like fighting.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I didn't like, okay, so what I don't like about fighting was like what most people, when they watch fights, they're like, it's brutality. And the guys are just there's no skill in it. When it comes to that kind of stuff, I don't really like it. But I had convinced myself that it's not really fighting, and it's a game. So it's a chess game that I'm trying to play. I'm making you think I'm doing something, but that's not what I want. Right? So I learned how to box. I went to Thailand to learn Muay Thai. So I learned all of that kind of stuff. But that's not how I ever planned to win a fight. So it's kind of like I put this illusion, saying I can strike, but my whole goal is to submit people and to win fights without getting hit and without hitting.
Right. When you think, as you have these businesses now that you're running and all these things that you're constantly doing, you're kind of a serial entrepreneur and athlete. And I think you're a serial athlete, it sounds like, too. You're like, any sport you see, you're like, I can do that.
Actually, you know what's funny about that is a lot of people go, yeah, Egan, everything you do, you're great at.
Yeah.
I don't golf. I don't play pickleball. I don't play a lot of sports because I'm not good at it. So the only ones that people know of me is the ones that I'm good at.
So when you looked at a UH swimmer once and you were like, oh, I can beat you.
Yeah.
What is that happened?
I was just being cocky.
Okay.
I was just being cocky because he was being cocky. And then I was willing to race him.
So you didn't know, because you're like, what?
I didn't know. I had no idea. I knew I could swim fast, but I didn't know I was that fast.
Right.
But you knew early on, because before the Diaz brothers, you were already doing triathlons with Sheldon.
Yeah, I was doing triathlons.
You were doing triathlons to get ready for your fight.
Yeah. I used to do triathlons just because I liked the biking and I liked the swimming, and I hated running, though. That's the only part of the triathlon I hated.
You've done such an amazing job. You've done so many things, so much mindset, so much that you've talked about, that you've accomplished. What is the number one or few things that you feel like you can really pass on to the people that you encounter who are still on the come up, so to speak,
I think the thing that I could probably help people with the most is being able to come back after failure. Because I think that a lot of people have no idea. Like, I'll give you a good example. when I first started my boot camp stuff, it was called Egan's, I forgot what it was called. It was in Mano Marketplace. I rented out this place and I got in the hole about $350,000 in the hole, and I ended up having to shut that business down. And I think I'm still paying till today, like trying to pay that back. And then another business I started was I brought in a cryo machine, a cryotherapy.
Okay.
That one that goes like negative 255 degrees. So I opened that thing up, and then that needed liquid nitrogen. And there's only one place in Hawaii that can supply that. So there was an ice cream place in Ala Moana Center. They went bankrupt also because the liquid nitrogen was just too expensive.
Right.
And so that also, I had a lease and they wouldn't let me out of the lease, even if I found someone to release it.
Right.
And I think I just recently finished paying for that lease.
Right.
So,
I'm wondering why you closed that down.
Yeah.
I remember when you opened it.
yeah. So the thing about it is that I filled in a lot of different things. Like even like say eForce, I had this racket company. We were making millions of dollars. And then I got ripped off by my partner. And then it didn't disappear. It's still out there.
So
and they're making like $8 million a year.
They're still selling it.
Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
see it in the stores.
Yeah. It's still around.
Wow.
And like that used to be mine. I created that whole thing and it's no longer like nothing to do with me.
Right.
You know, and I watch how much money these guys make and I'm like going, phew, unbelievable. But I think that's the thing that people can learn from me more than anything is that
The contract.
you can fail in things, but you cannot give up. You know, it's like, yeah, I can be in the hole and a lot of people are like, oh, Egan, he's probably a millionaire, which I'm not. But that doesn't stop me from being able to afford my kids going to Iolani or afford, like, I just opened up it's called a wellness cove in my gym where I got a sauna and a cold plunge where, you know, it's a longevity thing and it's good for your health. I mean, maybe I should be afraid of reopening something else because it might fail, but for some reason, I don't know if it's like, maybe I'm not smart enough to know that it could fail or it's just that I just refuse, you know?
Right.
Like, and I think more people need to be like that, I think. Like,
Yeah.
be willing to fail, but just know that doesn't mean you're going to give up.
It's resilient, huh?
I think so,
It
yeah.
reminds me of what you told me about Randy Couture and how when he lost
Yeah.
that one time, he's like, I lost today.
Yep.
And what'd you say? As soon as he said that, you knew he was going to be a winner.
Yep. I knew he was going to be a champ because he goes,
Yeah.
today just wasn't my day.
But he learned jujitsu because you guys tapped him out.
That's right. Exactly.
He said that he went
Yep.
to go address after he got tapped
Yep.
out by your brother.
Yeah. That's wild. When we think about business owners and leaders and somebody who's accomplished so much, you get into the nitty gritty of it. Are you like an organized person? Would you consider yourself?
That's a great question. You should ask my wife. She'll tell you. So my brain is such a scatter. Like, it's like, if you look at my car, my truck, I got everything in my truck.
Yeah.
Like everything. I can pump up a tire. I got drills. I got everything. It's a mess.
Yeah.
I know where everything is. It's my office, but they call it a man cave because it's just like, if you turn on the lights, it's like a mess. Like,
Is that the Tacoma that got stolen?
the Tacoma got stolen. I lost so much stuff in the Tacoma because I have everything in it, you know? I got stolen twice. I filled it back up with stuff and it got disappeared again.
Right. Wow. But what about your schedule and everything?
So I am super good at keeping a routine.
Okay.
So I'm up every morning at 4:00 in the morning. I'm at the gym by 4:20. I'm doing my breathing. I do my calisthenics. I sit in the sauna, I cold plunge, and then I get on with my day. I teach some 5 a.m., 6 a.m.s on certain days. So those days are a little different.
Yeah.
But I'm in the water every single day at the same time. I'm back at the gym at the same time. Like, I'm like this creature that just does, like, if you need to find me, easy to find.
Right.
Right? But if you showed me a room that needs to be clean, I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I wouldn't know. And then I put together these business ideas.
Yeah.
I can put together a business plan and I have a really hard time executing the rest because I get bored. Like, oh, I want to do this now. I want to do this now. And my wife's always like going, slow down.
It's like shiny new object.
Yeah, like a shiny new object, but it's more that, like, how did I say it? It's like, not that I lose interest in it, but everything's moving too slow for me.
Yeah.
Like I need things like,
You want to get to the answer.
yeah, I want to get there quick, and I get there quick, and like, here, Mano, you finish this.
Right.
You know, so why don't I have a YouTube channel? Because it's just I can't.
Oh, we're gonna help with that.
So lately, my thing's been baseball because my son's playing baseball.
Okay, how old is your son?
So he's 12,
Oh,
and he didn't start playing baseball till 3 years ago.
okay.
How old is he?
And 12. And when he started, they were already pitching to each other. So usually baseball starts with T-ball,
Yeah.
right? And then coaches pitch.
Yeah.
And then, so he started super late because I didn't want him to play baseball because I played baseball
Yeah.
and I hated baseball. But I was good at baseball because I did what had to be done to be good.
Right.
And I chose racquetball over baseball. Instead of playing at University of Hawaii, I decided to leave home and play racquetball, right?
Right.
So anyway, my son decides he wants to be a baseball player. I'm like, okay, he's got to quit baseball. But then he ends up after the first year loving baseball. So I started like going back to what I did for practice. And baseball has changed so much because now there's intact teams and there's like people play one sport all year long.
That's the crazy thing about
And it's horrible, I think. I think it's horrible.
cross training.
Cross training. So like my son plays basketball too.
Yeah.
And so my whole thing's been basketball and baseball, and that's the two sports I played growing up. And I developed all these drills that he and I started doing baseball. And after his second year, he makes the all-star team. He makes it to New York, to Cooperstown. Last year, we went to the regionals for the World Series for Cal Ripken, and it was his second year in baseball. And out of the 21 teams, they picked 7 of the best hitters. And he got one of the bats as the all-star,
Nice.
which just kind of goes back to where I feel like how training, like everyone's like on YouTube and they forget about the basics. And I feel like what we're talking about in jiu-jitsu, that I always told my son, like, if you can hit the ball, they're going to find a position for you.
Right.
But he happened to want to be a catcher, which was what I was.
Yeah.
So it was perfect. And my whole thing about catching was you got to be explosive, you got to have an arm, and you got to be quick.
Right.
I don't care if you're slow running the bases, but you got your 2 steps, which is racquetball.
Yeah.
You got to be quick,
Right.
which he is. And you know, he's probably he's one of the top catchers in the state right now.
Yeah.
You know, he's 13, and one of the recruits for Punoho, he's at Iolani, right? And he's like, "Hey, Chet, that's his name, right? Would you play for Punoho?" My son was like, "Yeah, if you give me a scholarship, I'll play." And I kind of, he doesn't like Iolani because they got their homework. They have so much homework. It's yeah.
Yulani's crushing on the homework stuff.
Oh yeah, it's so bad and my kid is like, he's like me. He don't like to study, but he's smart. You know, he's making it through. But
Right.
he heard from all his Punoho friends, there's no homework at Punoho really. So
It's
he's
more
like,
like
Punoho, I want to play
entrepreneurial.
baseball,
Yeah.
right? So, you know that's been my interest. Like, and of course he's really good in basketball because you know we play basketball. I mean, I play basketball and it's been hard for me because 2 years ago I had double knee replacement. So a lot of my comeback has been so I can, because like I said, I'm not going to teach him anything I cannot do.
Did you hit one at a time?
I did both. I just hit it one crack. Yeah, that's another story because I actually want to start helping people before knee replacements and after pre and post because I've been getting a lot of calls, but not everyone knows I had it. But people trip because 2 months after I was foiling again.
Yeah.
You know, once the wounds closed, I was back in the water. And like but I feel like I have these processes. But I think a lot of people think like Mano's like freak athlete. But I think there's
The routines.
I'm good at breaking down stuff. Figuring out like what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been doing that for a lot of old people now, which is crazy because I want to work with athletes, but I got like a 98-year-old client. I got 90-year-olds that I have walking again, moving again. This guy can jump and like he can jump, he can hop, he can.
Yeah.
At 90.
A gentleman named Bill Maeda.
Yeah, I talked to Bill a lot. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's supposed to come on this.
Oh really? He's super cool.
Yeah.
I think we should.
Bugger's smart too, you know.
I think we should do a collab with him.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So I invented this baseball thing and he put it on his thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. It was good sitting down with you.
Yeah.